Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Wini King, and I am the Senior Vice President of Communications, Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity, easy for me to say, for Cook Children's Healthcare System. We're here live to talk a lot about drowning prevention. We are going to have to talk about it because it's coming summer, and we know that a lot of people will be using the pool. Joining me today is Dana Walraven. She is the Manager of Community Health Outreach for the Center for Children's Health, led by Cook Children's. Dana, thank you so much for joining us, friend.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm excited to be here to talk about drowning prevention today.
Yeah, you know that this is going to be, we're now embarking on the Memorial Day weekend, and we know that a lot of families are going to be hovered around the pool, and maybe because of restrictions now that are being lifted, a lot of families with friends around the pool. So let's talk about the first thing you want parents to know when it comes to having kids around the pool.
Thanks, Wendy. There is a big concern that there might be an increase in drownings this year because families are so excited to get back together in large groups. Large groups mean distractions, and so we have to plan ahead, Wendy, to make sure we have preparation and strategies in place to keep kids safe around the water. The first thing that's a must-have, whether you're at the lake or a pool, is a life jacket. We want families to know what they're choosing. We need to have families pick a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket, Winnie, and this is how you do it. You just simply on the inside of the life jacket, you're looking for a label. You want to find the U.S. Coast Guard approved label on here. If it doesn't have it, chances are it's not U.S. Coast Guard approved. Let me tell you why that's a big deal.
I was going to ask, what's the difference?
Well, they go through specific regulations to make sure it's created in a way it can keep a child's head above the water where they can breathe.
Okay.
Some of the others out there look exactly like that, but they're not U.S. Coast Guard approved. And if they were to look at the label, again, the key is looking at the label. If they were to pick out one like this that looks just like the other, just different color, they look at the label, there's a warning. What does it say? This is not a life-saving device.
Right.
So just know what you're picking out. It's very important to prepare in advance. Know the skill level of the kids who are coming. Can they swim or can they not? They should all be wearing these U.S. Coast Guard approved life jackets that are labeled.
And we're not using the cute factor because this is cute.
It's cute.
Yeah, it's real cute, but we're not using the cute factor. We're looking for something that's been tested and is approved to be a life-saving device.
That's right. The label's going to say U.S. Coast Guard approved. They come in a variety of colors and shapes. There's so many different preferences. So, you know, you might want to first go toward the one that has their favorite cartoon. But again, what do? We look for the label.
We're looking at the label.
Let's look at this label here. Immediately, we see the warning sign.
This is not a life-saving device.
So again, look at it. It's got a cartoon. It's got all these little wedges on there that look like it's going to keep someone afloat. But it has not gone through the same regulations that the U.S. Coast Guard approved life jackets. So there's a huge difference as far as safety.
So we probably we're picking a cute bathing suit.
Yes.
But not a cute device.
Well, listen, you can have cute all day long. Just make sure the added safety piece is there with it.
Okay.
You know, we have grown up with these.
Yes.
How many people know about these arm floaties? Again, the label is going to tell us what we need to know.
This is not a life-saving device.
It's not a life-saving device. This is filled with air, so there's an easy potential for this to become deflated, where it wouldn't keep a child up. And what is it holding up anyway? It's holding up their arms. We need their head to stay above the water. And so these might be fun to splash around with, but don't rely on this to save a life.
That's such a great understanding about keeping the child's head above water. This does that. This does not.
That's right.
This does not.
That's right.
Very good. Let's talk about how parents don't have water watcher tags, because I know that's something we want to talk about, is water watcher tags.
Yeah, that's the next thing you want to have in addition to the life jacket. Make sure you've got assigned water watchers. A water watcher is a person that's designated to watch the swimmers in the water. You want to know how many people are in so you can count heads. You want to know their swim level or their ability to swim or their swim skills. You want to put this coil on. This is a little tag. This designates an adult, not a child, but an adult, to actively watch the kids in the water only Winnie for about 10 or 15 minutes. Your whole day is not shot watching the kids, just for a little while. And then guess what? You take this off, pass it to another adult, it's their turn.
And it's a concentrated time. So you're not on the phone, you're not looking at your book, you're not doing other things. You are actively watching every head in the pool.
That's right. Drowning is silent. So unless you have those active water watchers, you're not going to know someone's drowning. It's not a big splash or ordeal like you see on TV. So we really need someone not only to watch, but be within reach. We don't want to count so much on one item. So if they have the U.S. Coast Guard approved life jackets, we don't want to just rely on that kids are bobbing up and down around the water. We still need the active water watchers because things can happen, kids can get tired, and you want to be in reach of those children. So whoever's got this on is designated to do that and no distractions.
Now, if you don't have a water watcher tag, is there something else you can do?
Absolutely. The first thing is you can go onto our website and order one. We'll put one in the mail. In fact, we'll put a handful in the mail. You can share them with your neighbors or friends. We actually have them in 2 different styles this year. We have the coil that goes on your arm like a bracelet. We also have a lanyard this year. It's got a little breakaway so no one can get tangled up in it. But this is something they can put around their necks. Either way, it designates them as a water watcher. They're in English on one side, Winnie, Spanish on the other.
Okay, good.
So it's good for all families in our area.
Now, how much does it cost?
It's free. Cook Children's wants to make sure families are safe. So we are sending this to them at no cost.
Okay, wonderful. No excuse not to have it.
Winnie,
Okay.
if they don't get it in time for Memorial Day,
Right.
there are some other things that they can do. We have print off sign-up sheets. And if you don't have a printer at home, just make a list.
Okay.
This allows families to designate ahead of time who's going to be the active water watchers throughout the day. So then they know when their shift is. If they plan on drinking that day, they can put that off till after their shift or put those aside and have other people designated on and off to watch the kids around the water. And if you don't have that, listen, we all have our phones available. We don't want people distracted by their phones. I want to be clear on this, but we do want the phone to be at the side of the pool or the side of the lake in case an emergency does happen. We want to call 911 immediately. But this is something you can also use as a water watcher tag schedule. You can put alert on your phone and after 10 or 15 minutes, it goes off and that's when you know to switch it out.
It's time to switch.
Yeah,
That's really
simple
good.
alerts.
That's very good. We talk about the water watcher tag, the safety thing, but one of the things that we know at Cook Children's is that based on the data that we've collected and mainly from parents and families who have been in drowning situations, we know that there is a time that seems to be more dangerous or more dangerous than others. And that's the transition time. And what that transition period is from the time we're trying to get kids out of the pool and then trying to go to the car or back to the house and start lunch. We know that that is a dangerous time because a lot of times kids don't really want to get out of the pool.
Yeah.
So you get them out and then before you know it, you're busy doing something else and they have come back and gone into the pool. How can we help mitigate that issue?
Well, the more you're active around water, the more barriers you want to have in place. So we've covered active swim time, which is great, but what is happening during that transition time, like you're asking, we want to put barriers in place, some safety or layers of protection. One of the things that really could help reduce the amount of drownings is a 4-sided fence, Winnie.
Okay.
The majority of kids who drown are 4 and under, and so those little kids, if they can get to the pool, then they have a high potential to drown.
Right.
A lot of our homes in Texas have a 3-sided fence and the house is the 4th side.
Yeah.
So they have doors that access the pool, but the 4-sided fence, which is 4 foot high or taller, is the one that's going to help prevent a child from getting to the pool when the parent didn't expect them to be there.
Right.
Some of these fences, Winnie, have a self-latching gate. They can come with or without an alarm. So I wanted to show the audience, you simply, again, if this is 4 foot tall, the little 4-year-old can't reach those.
Right.
So you simply pull this up, it alarms off.
Okay.
The longer this stays open, it's going to get louder and the alarm is going to repeat faster and faster and faster the longer you keep this open. It's also a self-latching gate, so if someone were to go through,
Okay, it's done.
it's going to close all the way. It alerts a parent to come out to the pool to make sure their child doesn't get into the water.
That's a great device.
Yeah.
I mean, it's inexpensive too.
Well, some pool builders, when they're building the pool, they can add those in, but sometimes for cosmetic look, they don't want that four-sided, but it sure is a safety mechanism. If you've got children in and out, this would really help keep them out of the pool.
So what about lakes? A lot of people are going to the lakes. I mean, it's not just about being in the backyard anymore. It's about going
That's right.
to where all the people are. So what do they do with that?
Well, Texas has a lot of lakes, and whether it's a house with a lake in the back or not, we want to put some additional pieces of safety in place, Winnie. We have different things that we can add to doors that might access the pool or the lake. These are door covers, and so if you have, again, those smaller children who might be getting outside, they can't get out the door if the door cover's on. This is something the adult has to really maneuver to get out,
Right.
but that would allow the parent to decide whether they want the child out by the water, whether it's the pool.
Right.
We also have some of these locks that go at the top of the door, so
Right,
those young children can't
Can't
reach the
reach.
top until the adult wants them out there.
Exactly.
But the transition time, like you said, at the lake is just as important. So we've talked about the life jackets, but what happens during that distraction time when you're transitioning back to the patio or back to the parking lot? So we want to make sure that families don't take the life jackets off their child until they get offshore or onshore, way far away from the side of the water. We want to make sure when they're offloading the boat with coolers and towels and blankets and snacks, that the kids who are right there, they don't fall off a dock or back into the lake. Lakes become murky, and so a lot of times it's hard to see where the drop-offs are. It's hard to see if there's a current that might sweep a child away and you can't find them immediately. That's why the life jacket's staying on. It's really important all the way up either to the car or until you get inside the house.
Now, we've used the word drowning a lot.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're talking about. Let's clarify what we mean by drowning, because there's a difference between drowning and drowning fatality. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. Can you help us distinguish what that is?
I can, and the doctors have been very helpful at Cook Children's too, to describe a drowning. It's really a cycle, it's a process. As soon as someone is submerged into water and starts to experience respiratory distress, they're not breathing very well, they can't catch their breath, they're slipped under the water, you can't get above the water, that's when a drowning occurs. The longer that process is in place, the worse the injury potential is. And we see some very severe injuries that can be lifelong. The very end of that process, of course, is a death or a fatality. And so we're trying to prevent the injuries and the deaths this year. So with all these safety.
And when you talk about injuries, it's like the brain is not getting oxygen. And when the brain isn't getting oxygen, then that's what kind of causes the injury. And even though you may have lived through it, you may not come out the way that you went in.
Yeah, it's very hard to fix brain injuries, and some are recoverable, but some are not. And we see that every year. And so these are such simple things to put in place to prevent those tragic injuries for a family. The fatalities also, but some of the injuries can be just as traumatizing.
Yeah, very devastating.
Mhm.
Okay, so we've gone through all of the apparatus. We've talked about all of the stuff that we need to talk about. Is there anything else that you'd like parents to be aware of?
Winnie, there's a couple things. So we talked about the young children, again, that risk area 4 and under. Remember, for those active families who are in and out, some of the safety alarms that can be put in place are not just the pool alarms, but they actually have child alarms. So if you have an active youngster who's in and out, and you think they might have gone to take a nap and maybe you're doing chores, if you think they can get outside without you knowing, you might want to invest in a child alarm. Winnie, this is so cool. They're so cute.
They are cute.
Children don't mind wearing them. You can't actually slip it off easy. So a toddler's not going to be able to toss this aside when, throughout the day. It actually locks on.
Oh.
There's a lock that comes with this piece that you actually secure it to the child's wrist. And so it's not easily going to come off.
Okay.
But the reason this is so helpful is if this gets submerged into water, whether it's the pool, even a bathtub, This is going to alarm off very loud inside, and a parent will know their child is submerged in water and they can get to the child very quickly.
Oh
So
my
those,
gosh,
if you're
that's
gonna invest in a pool and you have young children, you might wanna invest in one of these as well.
That's a great idea.
It's a great
The fact that you have to put it in a lock, I mean, that's just like having an ankle bracelet or
Well,
something.
kids are curious, they're explorers, and things coming on and off all day. But in addition to the young kids, we wanted to highlight the teens as well. When we get around open water, drowning rates for teens triple. So we want to make sure teens, knowing developmentally, they're going to be little risk takers. They're chumming around with their friends. But again, that murky water sometimes is hard. Right now, we've had a lot of rain in Texas, so the water levels are up. But sometimes midsummer, the water level is way down. So it's hard to know where the drop-offs are in the lake. What kind of currents, or maybe after a storm, what might be under the water that could entrap somebody. So they might be the strongest swimmers in the world, but if they're horsing around, don't have a life jacket on, it's sometimes hard for them to come up to the top of the water if they've been injured. We don't want their friends to jump in after them, Winnie. You'd want to, but what could happen is they could jump in, get the same sort of injury, or become entrapped, and then we have a group drowning. So we really want to make sure those teens, even if they can swim, are wearing those U.S. Coast Guard approved life jackets.
Right, that's good.
Yeah.
So everybody in the water has a life jacket on.
It's the safest way.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Dana, for all of your information. You're such an expert in all of this, and this is great information to keep everybody safe. To our viewers watching, if you watching this broadcast, please make sure if you have any questions or if you'd like to know a lot more, you can go to our website, and it is lifeguardyourchild.org. And we will help you with, we will have information there. Also, if you'd like to have some questions, if you have other questions and you want them answered, you can ask in the comment section and we will get back to you. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.